recording tomorrow. So if you have any colleagues that you would like to share this with, feel free to look for that in your email tomorrow. So with that being said, we are going to talk about House Bill 1043 and the appropriations within that bill, talking specifically about school bus connectivity and Canvas LMS expansion. So Nathan, you want to talk to us about bus hotspot connectivity?
Sure. So just to make sure everyone is on the same page, you all did receive a Google survey or a form through Google in the past couple of weeks where we did ask specifically around um, five funding streams that are tied to House Bill 1043. The one we are going to start off with is connected to bus connectivity. This is section 3.3 in House Bill 1043. And as you can see, what was stated in that bill is that we have an allocation of funds to be given out to schools, to public school units, in a total of $1 million is going to the Department of Public Instruction to improve internet connectivity for students in response to COVID-19. By installing extended reach mobile Wi-Fi gateway router devices in school buses, you can see that these funds shall be used only for the purchase of devices and not for subscription services. So as such, Pam, if you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide there. As such, we were tasked with making a recommendation using that Google survey that we did send out to districts to help us determine the best allocation method. You will see that the program report code, the PRC for this one, is going to be 127. So when you do get this out to you all, it's going to now be labeled as PRC 127. The term of these dollars will be from March 1st, 2020 to December 30th, 2020. And the goal is to provide funds for internet connectivity for students. You do notice there that the term does date back to March 20th or to March 1st, 2020. The idea here is that if you did purchase some bus Wi-Fi as part of a response to your coronavirus situation and schools being closed, that you can potentially use these dollars to go back and help offset any of those costs, as long as it's within the same fiscal year. So if you were to get this money prior to June 30th, that you could replace some of those dollars back to you all as well. So if you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide. So what we've decided, or what the school board has approved, is that all PSUs with school buses may apply for funds. So for the bus connectivity, this will be an application based. And you can see, if you've pulled up the bit.ly for this particular presentation, you can click on the application. It will also be coming out to you via email as well in the next day or so. You will click on that application, but if our requested funds are higher than the total funds available, priority will go to public school units based on the estimated households without an internet subscription per FCC data in the county in which the public school unit is located. So if you are in Randolph County, and we know there's Asheboro City Schools, Randolph County, and a charter school in that particular county, then all three of those different public school units will be using the FCC data for Randolph County. So go ahead and click, Pam. For the connectivity application, you will need the following information. You will need to name a point of contact for your PSU. You also need to get some bus information. So this may require you talking to your transportation folks, but we are asking for the total number of buses in your district or in your PSU, and then how many buses do you plan to equip, as well as do you currently have any bus Wi-Fi programs within your PSU. We're also asking for a description of your implementation plan and a plan for how you will be SIPA compliant moving forward. So there's some different ways to do that. So we just are interested in knowing how you do plan to stay SIPA compliant in this process as well. And then if you want to skip on over to the next slide, Pam, we do plan to have all applications must be received by 5 p.m. on June 25th, 2020. So any applications received after 5 p.m. Will not be considered for funding. So please make sure that you get those in by 5 p.m. Next week, and we will review those applications. Based on the Google survey that we did last week, we used approximately $1,000 for for a Wi-Fi solution in our cost estimates. So based on the Google survey that we got back last week, using that estimate, we do anticipate that the potential for requests of funding could be higher than the $1 million that we currently have funded for this. So just to know, we do anticipate that this is that the request could be higher than our current amount of funding. So are there any questions related to the bus connectivity and or this particular application? It is a simple application, and our intention is to hopefully give everyone who applies some dollars, but then similar to some of the other allocations that are going out, we do anticipate, using the FCC numbers to help give priority or give a little higher percentage of funding to those who have higher percentages of students who don't have internet at home. So other questions?
Yes, Nathan. Would Khajiit be covered? And what's the per bus cost?
So we used the current quote that we got for an average bus solution was $1,050 to do an entire bus. That particular quote that we had was was a bundled cost where the device was the $1,050 and the subscription was basically donated or bundled in. So based on the language in the House bill, you cannot pay for subscriptions. You can only pay for the hardware associated with the bus solution. So when you're writing your contracts or getting your contracts for any particular advice or device, not advice, any particular device, your contracts will need to be paying only for device purchases out of the PRC 127. And
they have the autonomy to choose the vendor of their choice that has the best coverage for their public school unit. Is that correct?
That is correct. You can pick whichever vendor has the best coverage. We know there's different solutions out there. AT&T has a Wi-Fi Ranger. Khajiit has a solution. Verizon has their own one. They're also working to get connected to Wi-Fi Rangers as well. So there's several different options, and whichever one is the best for you. We would like for you to include sort of what your plan is for which district or which vendor you're planning on going with in that implementation plan. Yes, as Dana put in the chat, we do understand there's a significant cost that comes from the subscription. We did go back and ask the General Assembly if they would consider removing that from the bill, and as of now, they have not been willing to remove that language.
And the rationale I've been given as to why they will not remove that language is because the monies have to be spent by December, and whatever monies are not spent by the end of December will revert back to the state. So they don't want public school units to enter into contracts that would be beyond that. So work with vendors to see how you can work out an invoice with them. But other ways to potentially get money for subscriptions, we're hearing that federal CARES money, title dollars that are being provided could potentially be used for subscriptions. So work with your federal programs and see if they've got some wiggle room to provide subscriptions. Any other questions for bus connectivity?
And obviously, if you have any questions between now and your application turn in, you can reach out to any of us or your regional consultant, and we can find answers and help support you for this. So we do hope, and we do understand the subscription component, but we do hope that there are some creative solutions out there to help address that as well.
Nathan, at this time, I don't see any additional questions.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Jill and Nathan. I will move on and talk a little bit about LMS. So we are grateful for the General Assembly that they have appropriated $1.488 million to the Department of Public Instruction to assist and support public school units in providing remote instruction in response to the impacts of COVID-19 by expanding the learning management platform provided by the Department of Public Instruction to local school administrative units, charter schools, regional schools, the Innovative School District, and any other public school units in the discretion of the department. So we do have a PRC code 129 that we have a statutory reference here that is linked if you wish to read that and provide more information, but that is to distribute the $1.488 million. And we have a application system with a funding formula. So eligible public school units may apply, and the word apply in this slide is linked, as well as there's a bit.ly for the application and a couple of slides that I'll get to. So any public school unit may apply to digital teaching and learning to have funds for Canvas, and there are two options. For public school units that do not currently have a contract for Canvas, they may be awarded an amount that is a base fee that covers the setup fee for your instance, plus a dollar amount per license requested. Or for public school units that have a current Canvas contract and they wish to add licenses, they can request to expand the number of licenses awarded, and the amount should be awarded depends on their currently negotiated contract with Canvas. So it says $1 per license. It doesn't mean an actual dollar. It means what your negotiated contract rate is with Canvas. Because we do know there are some differences between when public school units signed their contracts with Canvas. So we have that language in here. If our total requests exceed that $1.488 million, which we do believe will happen based on the interest survey that we sent out as a Google form about a month ago, then we will adjust the amount based on, we will only fund the cost of new licenses. So we would take away the funding first for the setup fee, and then we will reduce on a prorated basis the remaining approved grant requests. So if we take away the base fee for setup of new instances, and then we still have more requests than that 1.488 million, we will reduce everybody's on a prorated basis. So you might end up getting, 90 or 95% of what you requested for new licenses, just depending on what the requests are. So with the application, it is a Google form. You have some required information, such as your contact information, what PSU, and then you have two choices that you either want to establish a new Canvas contract or you want to expand your current Canvas contract. And then if you want to establish a new contract, that's that first option. You're going to be asked in the application how much of setup fee that you're requesting. If you do not know what your Canvas instance setup fee is, on the application we have Christina Clayton's information, which is our sales rep from Instructure, and she can help you with determining what that fee is. It ranges between $4,000 and $8,000 roughly, depending on the size of your public school unit. The number of your Canvas user license that you're requesting for the 2021 school year, that includes students and staff. So think about how many licenses you will need. A few details about your implementation plan, such as who will be using Canvas, what grade levels, and your overall numbers of anticipated users. If your PSU is interested in option 2, expanding your current contract, on the application, you will be asked how many additional licenses you would like, what your currently negotiated rate per user license is, and we'll ask you to share a link to your current Canvas contract so that way we may calculate what your award amount would be based on how many licenses that you request and what your current negotiated price is. And then a little bit of details about your implementation plan. So who is going to use those additional licenses, what grade levels, if it's students, what's the impact that you anticipate, and then what is your professional development plan for those new users to get them up to speed. All applications must be received by 5 o'clock on June 25th. So any applications received after 5 o'clock will not be considered for funding. You may visit the link to the application as the hyperlink right there, or you can also type in the bit.ly. And as Nathan mentioned earlier, the session is being recorded, and you will get the application links to both applications in an email along with the recording link. So at this time, I would like to answer any questions. Jill, could you help me out with the question?
Let's pause for a moment and see if anyone enters anything, because as of yet, we don't have any questions.
Okay.
Oh, here comes one, Pam. Given that the funding period is the same as the bus, do we have just expanded or are eligible?
So, the dates of the period are the same as the bus. So you have from March 1st until December 30th to use these funds. Any funds left over at December 30th will go back to the state. So if you just increased your Canvas contract, you are still eligible to apply for funding as long as that expansion of your contract was after March 1st. So if you have just signed, maybe, as a response to the closure, you decided to go with Canvas as your LMS and you signed a new contract April 15th, you would still be eligible to apply for this funding because that's after that March 1st. I hope that helps answer the question. If not, you can retype it.
Pam, this is Nathan again, and there is wording in the allocation policies that went to the state board that does state that this money is intended for purchases for all 5 funding streams in the CRF, the Corona Relief Funding streams, that these are intended for purchases related to entering into remote instruction. If these purchases were already planned as part of your normal operating budget for this school year, those are supposed to not be eligible. So if you were,
Right.
say, for example, already buying hotspots that was in your local budget, those would not be eligible.
Thank you, Nathan. That's a good point. We cannot use these funds to supplant anything that you were already doing. So if you already had, that's the reason why existing Canvas users can only apply for additional licenses. They can't apply for the licenses that are already currently in their contract. Thank you, Nathan.
All right. We just want to reiterate the deadlines for both of these applications are for all PSUs, districts, or LEAs, as well as charters. So Pam, another question is for PSUs applying for LMS funding to use for new Canvas contracts, do we have to enter a contract with the NC State contract pricing, or can we apply those funds for the licenses acquired with their customer service account structure? So what I'm wondering from Andrew's question is, were you able to negotiate a lower price?
So we are appropriating funds. You will be the one to pay and structure. So whatever your negotiated rate will be, that'll be what you pay. I was a little unclear about that question, so feel free to email me directly if you need further clarification.
Yeah, and question from Don Lorsey for clarification about the expansion for Canvas. The funding is for expanding licenses, not for additional Canvas purchases. So
the General Assembly was very clear in their intention was for expansion and for providing an LMS for users that currently do not have access. So unfortunately, you can only use this money for licenses for users. You cannot use it to purchase things such as Canvas Studio or Big Blue Button or any additional add-ons that you might have from Canvas at this time.
So there's a question on who to contact for each of these applications. So if you've got a question about bus Wi-Fi, I'm putting in Nathan Craver's email address.
And it's on the last slide of the slide deck too.
And for Canvas questions, please contact Pam Batchelor.
And again, if you need help with the setup fee for what your setup fee for Canvas would be, I'm going to be directing you to Christina Clayton, and her email address is on the Canvas application. So it's ccclayton@instructure.com.
So the next question is for districts that are signing an expansion for users in the near future, will those funds act as a reimbursement for funds we allocate before funding arrives?
So the funds will be dispersed after the new fiscal year. And so if the purchase was made, I believe the key thing is, as Nathan's pointed out earlier, for remote instruction, for the purposes of supporting remote instruction, and the money was spent after March 1st, then you are eligible to apply for this funding.
All right.
Any other questions, Jill?
So, so Gordon, my recommendation would be to email Pam directly and have her set up a call with you to discuss further. All right. I believe that that's it so far.
All right, well, we'll give one more minute to see if there's any more further questions. We did schedule until 4 o'clock, but we're happy to give everyone back a few minutes at the end of their day unless there's more questions that pop up. And I believe it's Dr. Renon, did she want to say?
Yeah, if you want to elevate her to or promote her. So Pam, is there a deadline for the LMS funds to be expended? So all of the House Bill 1043 funds that you may receive all have to be expended by December, the end of December, or they will revert to the state. So that could be any of those PRCs from COVID-19 funding. So for bus hotspots, that's PRC 127, and for Canvas, that will be PRC 129.
All right, and Dr. Wren, did you have anything to add?
I believe you all did a great job covering that. Thank you, Nathan, Jill, and Pam. I just want to say we are very grateful to the General Assembly for allocating these funds to us. It is one of the first times that we've had funds specifically available for these items. And so we are grateful for that. And we know that there is still a gap in what's needed, and we are working to close that gap as well. I will just close by saying we look forward to working with you as you receive your allocations and any additional questions you might have in those expenditures. Your CFOs were communicated with earlier, and so they have your PRCs, and we'll have your chart of accounts available to you as well. But with that, thank you, panelists, for going over this, and we look forward to working with you as we distribute all of the allocations.
All right, well, thank you all so much. And we appreciate your time. And we will give everyone a few minutes back at the end of their day. Please remember to get those applications in by Thursday at 5 p.m. a week from today. Thank you.